take your seats? Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the ALIA National Conference. If it's your first day, and I know some people have joined us today, welcome. And the bad news is that so far you've missed out on an excellent conference, and I think everyone's been saying what a great time they've had, outstanding papers, and the networking's been fabulous. And I think today that will continue with our outstanding keynote that we have today. I'd like to acknowledge at the beginning of the session our Platinum partner, Taylor and Francis, for the support that they've given to this conference. I know you don't need reminding because our Twitter has just been going wild, but the hashtag for today or for the conference is on the slide, and it's National 16. Who had a fabulous time last night? Yeah, and I think it was fantastic. I know people who joined us for the conference dinner from outside the profession were amazed at the dancing and the excitement and just how everyone just got in and had a great time. So we're thrilled that everyone did have such a great time. Today's theme is lead, and as I said, we have an outstanding keynote speaker today in Dr. Neil Carrington. Dr. Carrington was the Harvard Club of Australia Fellow for 2012-13, and he was awarded this prestigious scholarship to attend the CEO program at Harvard University's Graduate School of Business. Dr. Carrington is currently the CEO of the national charity Act for Kids, an organisation dedicated to supporting abused and neglected children. He most recently was the Foundational National Director of the Leadership Centre for the Australian Council of Educational Research. He's presented over 500 conferences across Australia, the UK, Middle East, USA, New Zealand and Asia. His featured presentation in the business strand of the World Conference on Thinking in Malaysia was sold out. He was invited to work with the New Zealand Elite Coaching Academy, and the coach of the All Blacks commented that Neil's leadership workshop was the best that he had ever attended. He currently serves on the board of Business Southbank and the BGW Group. His PhD into perceptions of intelligence was judged one of the largest and most rigorous studies of its type ever undertaken in Australia. Fantastic credentials. So on the personal side, Neil's willing to share a little bit about himself. He started his own landscaping business at 15 and has worked as a meat worker and barman to put himself through university. He's also been struck by lightning, and you can see he survived. He's been in a feature film and opened the bowling at Oval Cricket Ground in London. So a very, as Helen said, eclectic past. I think this is the most outstanding factor I'd like to share with you. All of his speaking fees go to the Abused Child Foundation, and he's given over $1.9 million in the last 6 years. As I said, today's theme is lead, and Neil's title of his presentation is Beyond Events Management to Transformational Leadership. Could you please welcome Dr. Neil Carrington?
Thank you. Whoa, look at that. Interesting story about that. Last time I was at the Adelaide Convention Centre, I was a guest speaker for Subway. And Subway had asked me to do several state conferences, and then they said, we want you to come to the Adelaide Convention Centre. We've got about 3,000 of our franchisees coming here, and we want you to talk to them about business and leadership and teams. So I was pretty excited about that because I'd never spoken at the Adelaide Convention Centre to 3,000 people. And when I got here, there were actually 2 conferences on that day. And the sad thing is, I was about 20 minutes into my presentation, I was actually at the wrong conference, which is a little bit embarrassing. Guys, thanks for the invitation from ALIA to be with you here today and talk about leadership. So let's look at what we're going to explore today. I'm going to explore a number of themes with you. We're going to talk about culture. That's something that I get asked to come and talk to organisations quite a bit. I'm going to explore time. I've never met anyone with plenty of time. Teamwork and leadership are going to be themes that infuse my whole presentation. I'm going to give you some ideas about perception that I know you'll be able to use at your work, but also I think you'll be able to take a lot of those messages away at home. And if you're going to be a good leader, you've got to be a good listener. And if you're going to be a good listener, you've got to understand the concept of feedback and 4-way feedback. So that's where I'm going to take you on a journey around those particular themes. I want you to look at that statement there. Culture must be one of your strategic pillars. Staff watch you to work out what's important around here. You heard in my introduction that I got a chance to hang out at Harvard University. First day at Harvard University, they put this comment up to us. They said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Discuss." And of course, what they wanted you to decide in your organisation, no matter whether it was a bank or a hospital or a library or a university, what's the most important thing? Is it about culture? Is it about strategy? Now, you're all smart people. You'll say, well, Neil, you've got to have culture, but you've also got to have strategy. We get that. But if I was to give you a forced choice, in other words, you only can say one word, what would you say? Would you say it's about culture or is it about strategy? I want you to turn to the person beside you. Don't say it's both. I want you to say one word, culture or strategy. What is the most important? Off you go. Yeah. Okay, bring it back. I heard about 98.5% of you say culture. And that's what the profs at Harvard said. And despite what they might say, they don't like you to argue with them at Harvard. If you get to know me, I like to have a bit of a debate and a bit of an argument. I said, I disagree. I don't think it is, culture is the most important. So they got all very excited. And I said, well, hang on. You know, you say you want us to challenge you. Let me finish my sentence. I said, actually, I think it's strategy. And you know why? Because you have to strategise about culture. Culture's got to be one of your strategic pillars. You know, you might have finance, you might have people in there, you might have the services that you deliver, but you actually have to explicitly strategise about culture. You can't just make it up as you go along. And I've got this slide here with these blue cords to remind me to tell you a quick story. I was on a panel recently up at the Brisbane Convention Centre, and we're all on there talking about the future. And I was asked to be the panellist talking about the future of leadership. There was a politician there talking about the future of governments. Good luck, I can't even remember who it was. Mao's last dancer, Lee Kanam, was there talking about the future of the arts. The head of Fuji Xerox was talking about the future of business. And there was this really cool guy called Max Walsh, not the guy that used to be on TV, Mike Walsh, sorry, not the guy that used to be on TV 1,000 years ago. This guy was a futurist, and he used to work with countries about what they call first, second and third horizon planning and thinking. And his expertise was IT. Told this great story. He said, just got back from Malaysia, was a guest of the Malaysian government. They got me over there to help them plan their country's IT strategy, second, third horizon, like right out there, 10 years out. He said it was fascinating. He's picked up at the airport by a guy called Wei. Wei was a Chinese Malay guy, 30-something, you know, got the hat on backwards, brain the size of a planet. So he's taking Mike here, there and everywhere throughout Malaysia, through these technology parks, comes back to Kuala Lumpur, comes back to the Central Technology Park in Kuala Lumpur. They go through about 5 layers of security with the swipe cards, and they enter a room with these blue cords everywhere. You've seen them. Now in Malaysia, they like to keep an eye on things. And this guy, Wei, is getting very excited. He said, Mike, everything in Malaysia must come through this room. And Mike's nodding along, and he's looking around. He sees these cords labelled Twitter and Google and WhatsApp, and then right in the centre of things is a cord that says Internet. And this guy's Wei's eyes get really big. He said, Mike, want to see something really cool? And Mike said, yeah, sure. And Wei reaches over, grabs the cord that says Internet and goes, pulls it out. He said, everyone in Malaysia think Internet very unreliable. Sometimes I just get bored. And of course, Mike's can't put the bloody cord back. But it's a great story, isn't it? Like billions of dollars of infrastructure. And there's some guy with his hat on backwards thinking, yeah, I'm a bit bored today. So next time your server goes down at work, you know what's happening, don't you, yeah? Someone's out the back pulling the cord. So culture is really, really important. And it's just not another job for you guys. If you assume a leadership role in your organisation, then that is the work of you as a leader. I was recently in a school in Sydney, and I said to the principal, I was his executive coach, and I said, now what are you here for? He said, I'm here for the children. I said, no, you're not. And he got terribly upset. He said, I won't lose touch with my children. I said, I get it. That's what the school's here for, to get the best learning outcomes for your kids. But you know where your biggest point of leverage is? It's with your staff. And that's the transition that many people never fully get their heads around. And it's your staff, in that case of a school principal, that's his class. If you guys lead people, that's where your point of leverage is. And it's not another job, it's the most important job that you've got. And I want to walk you through some strategies about that. And you're probably sitting there going, well, that's all right for you, Neil. You just run a charity, you must have plenty of time on your hands. You must have plenty of time. Well, Time's a really important concept. I have never been called into a bank or a hospital or a uni or a library and people have said to me, no, Neil, we've got plenty of time on our hands, just having a beer, laying back at the sunbed, you know, relax, mate. You're all busy people, okay? I get that. And you've got to be absolutely laser-like with your priorities. And the phrase I use when I'm coaching organisations about strategic planning is less is more. And it sounds contradictory. Less is more. Be very clear and laser-like what you're going to do. But this is the really important thing for you guys as leaders. Be careful about what you're not going to do. Now, I'm going to show you a slide in a moment. Some of you have seen it before. I hope it messes with your head like it messes with mine. It's been messing with mine for about 30 years. I would credit the person who showed me it if I could remember them. I can't. I acknowledge it's not my work. Here it is. Okay. The next time that you're about to utter these words, I haven't got time, I want you to substitute the phrase, it's not really important to me. And if that sits, if it feels okay, good. That means your priorities are probably right. Okay? Now, Vicky has shared all your IQ profiles with me, so I know you're a highly intelligent group. I'm going to stress you don't actually say those words, it's not really important to me, out loud. Okay? Note the little thought bubble. It's a thought bubble activity. If you say those words out loud, it could be very career limiting, it could be very relationship limiting. It works. I will bet you that in the next 48 hours you say, I haven't got time. And it's not my place to tell you what your priorities are. I just challenge you, pop that phrase in and recalibrate, see if it fits, okay? It's a goodie. Now, I'm going to prove to you just how precious time is. You've got a pen out there, I can see them all. They're all Act for Kids pens, by the way, which is great. So you need a pen and paper for this next activity. I'm going to ask you a question, and you've got 5 seconds to answer the question. You really will need to write it down, otherwise it won't make a lot of sense, okay? Here's the question. You will be tempted, I should warn you that you'll be tempted to multiply by 365. I don't want you to multiply by 365. I want you to go with your gut feel. The lady in the front row here is looking at me going, mate, I'm never tempted to multiply by 365. Okay? So here's the question. You ready? If you live a normal life expectancy from the day you're born to the day you die, how many days should you get on this planet all going well? Not how many you got left, but from the day you're born to the day you die, stop multiplying by 365. How many days should you get if you get a fair go on this planet, okay? Now just go with your gut feel. 5, 4, 3.5. Quick, write your answer down. 2, 1.5. Done, all done. Show the person next to you, have a laugh at their answer. Okay, here's the deal. The answer, I mean, obviously, depending on genetics, lifestyle, you know, you go for a little walk every now and again, have a glass of red, don't eat too much, all that sort of stuff. The answer is about 30,000, okay? About 30,000. Okay, stick with me. Now, I will warn you, this next bit will mess with you as well, okay? Because I'm going to reveal to you that I'm about 50-ish, so that means I've got about 12,000 days left. Okay, I'm going to be asleep for a third, that's 8,000. I'm going to be eating rice pudding for the last 2,000. That's 891 Saturdays I've got left. There's a couple of people up the back now packing their equipment and saying, well, I'm out of here, mate. Okay, you need to be very clear with your work as a leader about how you use your time very wisely. Have we got any Buddhists in the room? Couple there, great. You guys get a couple of laps around the block. Most of us don't. This is it. Let's have a look how you use that time to work with your team. Now, if I go to Vicky here and I say, Vicky, is your senior team always in agreement? She goes, oh yes, Neil, we're always in agreement. I'd say, Vicky, it's time for you to put your little hush puppies on and your beige cardigan. It's time for you to go. Seriously, you are in trouble. You have to understand the difference between agreement and alignment. Because if your team's always in agreement, you're in big trouble. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a weirdo. I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, looking forward to some conflict today. But I'm always intrigued. I've been married for 33 years. I'm always intrigued. I see these people pop up on the news every now and again. They go, oh, I've been married for 40 years and never had a crossword. What the hell have you been talking about? Okay? It is a natural part of professionals working together that there will be disagreement. But when you make a call, that's when you need to demand alignment. Okay? The discussion's over. We're heading, if we're discussing, should we go, which door? Somebody says, oh, yes, I think this door. Somebody says that door. If you're the leader, you listen to all of that, then you make a call. Guys, thank you for that. We're heading out that door. That's when you need alignment. Somebody came up to me at a conference recently. They heard me talking about this. They said, Neil, I want to buy you beer. I said, I'm in. They said, we now finish all of our leadership team meetings with the phrase, are we just in agreement or are we in alignment around this? And that's a cue for, if we've got any issues here, we need to sort it out now. Because when we walk out that door as a leadership team, we need to speak with one mind and one voice. Give you an example of some concepts around team, and I had the privilege of working with the New Zealand Elite Coaching Academy, and they love this model because they got it. So if I pick on these 4 people here in the front row in the expensive seats who are now getting very nervous, if you've never worked with me, be cool, no role plays, no butcher's paper, we're not singing Kumbaya at the end, okay? So these 4 people I went to recruit to my team, look at them, they are the best of the best, 10 out of 10. They work, we put all that together, the outcome's 40, it's pretty good. Have a look at them now though, those same 4 punters. If I go and eyeball each of them, are you working really hard? Yes, Neil, I couldn't be working harder. Look what's happening between them though, and excuse the French, you're getting bloody nowhere. If you can achieve this sort of synergy within your team, all of a sudden, whoosh, things really take off. Now, it doesn't matter whether I'm in Dubai or Dubbo, when I show that to organisations and leaders, they get it. People will usually say, Neil, we go through those before morning tea. I've had people say, we're 40 below. You know, we seem to be pulling each other apart. I want you to think about your immediate team that you work with. If you're the team leader, think of that team. If you're a part of a team, think of that team. Which one of those equations best describes where you spend most of your time? Because I get you'll move around, but where do you spend most of the time? That's the first question. Second question, what is that X factor? Because I know you kind of get it, but if you had to say to someone, when I think about teams being synergistic and working together really well, what would it look and smell like? Okay, so that's the second question, what's the X factor? And then the third question is, I want you to ponder, what's that last equation about in terms of a metaphor for how teams work together? So 3 questions. Where are you? What's the X factor? And what's that last equation about in terms of a metaphor for teams? Now, what's that last equation? Because I'm going to do something groovy with it. Look how those people change as individuals and look what happens to the outcome. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're treating patients in a hospital, you're processing information, you're teaching university students, you get the message, okay? You get the metaphor. So, you've got 3 minutes, compulsory talking with the person beside you. If you haven't got someone beside you, for goodness sake, move over and talk to someone, okay? You are the same today except for the books you read and the people you meet, okay? So it's time to expand your knowledge. You've got 3 minutes, compulsory talking on those 3 themes. Where are you? What's the X factor? What the hell's that last equation about? 3 minutes, compulsory talking. Off you go. Where are you, boss? Where were you?
I think we probably the 8. We whacked it up to 8. Yep. And we certainly didn't have agreement on everything.
Yeah. Yep.
We worked well together.
You get the agreement and alignment thing I was banging on about? Not many people get that because they think you always got to be agreeing. It's a marker for problems, you know.
I think it's people are willing to share what they don't agree on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, can I bring you back? Thanks for that. Vicky told me you guys would be good at that. That's called social constructed learning. If you are not aware of it, you should be. The research evidence is very clear that adult learners about every 10 to 12 minutes need to actually talk about what they're learning. I used to be director of teaching and learning at QUT, and I watched lecturers do 3-hour lectures on why not to lecture to students. Okay? So you're gonna, I've got an idea or 2 to share about leadership, but I've just done the maths, okay, and there's probably about 3,000 or 4,000 years worth of experience out there. There's a lot of experience out there. So I'm going to hopefully pull some of that from the room. Had an interesting comment the other day from a leader in the room when I was talking about this. They said, Neil, I don't want that third line. I said, really? Wouldn't you want people to be getting 10,000 in terms of the outcomes? And they said, no, I don't think that's sustainable. I need to find, I'm going to demand that from my team from time to time, but I want to find a sustainable pace for my team. Graham Henry, coach of the All Blacks, he loved this. He said that top line is not a team. He said that is a talented group. And they have this thing, you have your AFL All-Stars, the Rugby Union has the International Barbarians. That's where they put the best winger, the best centre, the best forward and stick them together. He said, I don't need that. He said to me, give me 7 out of 10. Give me talent. I'll grow that talent as an individual. I'll synergise them. I will align them to a common goal, and I'll outscore that talented group every time. It's a pretty cool analogy, isn't it? Now, I can see some people making notes and scribbling. Please keep doing that. I have a mental model. I share everything that I've got. So if you want a personal copy of my slides, just grab a business card after it. I don't send them to the organiser to send on. I'll send them to you individually. So if you want a copy of those, by all means, just drop me an email and I'll send you a copy. I would encourage you to take that back to your teams and say, hey, guys, where are we? And start a conversation about what it is. What's that X factor? What do we need to do? What does agreement and alignment look like? And you've all heard that cliche, but it's pretty true, that you don't want necessarily a team of champions. You want a champion team. You've actually got to bring those people together. Leadership. Go to any library, go to any business school, look up the term leadership and management, and boy, you will get confused. I think they're two very different terms, and I think that all of you in this room, I don't care what the title is on your door, you need to know when to lead and when to manage. They're two different concepts. I think management's a subset of leadership, but you have to do both. Again, I don't care what your level is. This diagram here changed my life about 20 years ago. Some of you are probably looking at that saying, Neil, you perhaps need to get out more. It's a very cool diagram. Comes from the work of Daniel Kim. He's really hard to find in the literature, but if you Google Peter Senge, S-E-N-G-E, and go to the 5th discipline, but go to the 5th discipline field book. I think the textbook's poorly written, I told him so. The field book is very well written and it's got great narrative and all that sort of thing around it. And if you Google it, there's some very good executive summaries out there as well to have a look at to just sort of get you prepared for it. This is how I would explain it. We're sitting at the ALIA conference beside the Torrens River. We're all having a curried egg sandwich and a beverage of choice. It's all going very well. Next minute, we spot a young child in the river drowning and in trouble. What would we do? We're caring, sharing kind of people. We'd go and get that little bubby out of the pond, resuscitate them, and say that was a terrible event. Just get our wines back and a curried egg sandwich, and next minute, another kid comes down the river, and another, and another. So this terrible event is now becoming a pattern of behaviour. Being smart people, good systems, good organising people, we would say we need a system and structure to deal with this. I want you spotting the kids. I want you resuscitating them. Hey, Helen, you're pretty good at writing stuff. Could you write off to Jay Weatherall and maybe we could build a resuscitation facility? We're right here near the university. Let's do a paediatric resuscitation, get it accredited. We will audit this. We will save more kids this year than we did last year. Now, right about now, everyone in this room's going, this guy's a knucklehead. Why don't you go upstream and see where these bloody kids are coming from? When you go upstream, guess what you find? You find a childcare centre. Maybe it's an ABC one, maybe not. The gate is broken and the kids are plopping in the water. It's a metaphor, right? But you know what? It's a metaphor for how many people run their business, their organisations, and you know what? Run their lives. They're in events management, okay? They are not clear what the vision is. Now, some of you would see vision and go, oh, Neil, not another vision statement. Watch the word vision. It means this. What do I really want? You have to answer that question at a personal level and also a professional level. Not many people ask themselves that personally or at work. They're sort of getting through the day. They're managing the events. Now, once you're clear on vision, you then need to have a look at these little darlings, mental models. They are your values, your beliefs, your assumptions, your life's lens. If you read Senge's work, they drive everything that you do. Trouble is they're largely invisible to you. They're very visible to other people. It is at these top 3 levels, excuse me, that's where leadership occurs. The bottom 2 levels is where management occurs. I stress you have to do both. I do work with a certain airline. I can't name the airline. I started work with them about 18 months ago. You know what the first thing they wanted to show me? They said, Neil, look at this. This is our new lost luggage policy. I said, that looks like a cracker. I said, is that what you really want? And they said, you don't understand. It used to go like that. Now it goes like that. And I said, that looks fantastic. Is that what you really want? And they're getting pretty cranky because they're paying me a hell of a lot of money to help them. But guess what they did? Somebody lost some luggage. Geez, we seem to be losing a lot of luggage. We need a system and structure to deal with this luggage. They went the wrong way. Would you really want to be known as the world's best airline for lost luggage? Okay? It sounds bleedingly obvious, but organisations do this all the time. They start here and move in the wrong direction. They don't start with a crystal clear vision. What do we really want here? Doesn't matter where you are, what organisation. How many of you are managing right now your personal lives? Or are you leading the life that you want? That can really make the colour drain from your face. So you're probably looking at that and go, Neil, yep, I get it, mate, move on to the next one. Harder than you think, because these mental models are incredibly resistant to change. Now, if you look at me side on and look away, you might see that I struggle with my weight, because everywhere I go, there is food. Okay? There will be food out there today. I'll be at the Qantas Lounge later this evening. There will be free food and alcohol. I have the willpower of a gnat. So I have a vision for myself that I want to stay in a healthy weight range, okay? I want to have 3 or 4 alcohol-free days a week and so on. That's the vision I have for myself. So I need to work on my mental models. That's tough because they're incredibly resistant to change. Recently, I got a call from Channel 7. They said, oh, Neil, the breakfast show is doing a shoot up at Noosa. Now, if you don't know where Noosa is, it's about 2 hours north of Brisbane. They said, you need to be up there at about 7 o'clock. They want to interview you about Act for Kids. It's a great opportunity. I said to Kay McGrath, who's the newsreader in Queensland, I said, Kay, I'll be there. She said, get there at 7. You'll go into makeup. Sometime between 7:30 and 7:45, you'll go on. I said, beaut, thanks. So I got up at some ungodly hour, drove to Noosa. Now, I naively assumed breakfast show, there would be breakfast. I thought that was a fair assumption. I got there, not a cornflake, not a sausage, not a cup of tea. I went into makeup. It took 45 minutes, not 30. I'm not sure why. Something about a good head for radio. And did the presentation, and then they all waved goodbye. I still haven't had a cup of tea. So I'm absolutely starving now. So I drive back to a golf club on the north of Brisbane where I'm doing a presentation to the Banking Association same day at 11 o'clock. I get there and I find the bistro. And there's a little man behind the bistro and I get the menu. I said, mate, could I get a round of toasted chicken and avocado sandwiches? I don't want any butter and I don't want any chips, right? New vision, stay healthy, right? Don't need chips. And the little man's got his book like this and he says, but it comes with chips. I said, but I don't want any chips. He writes it down. So you know what happens, yeah? 10 minutes later, it comes back. There is a mound of chips there bigger than my head. So I have a new vision, new mental model. I don't need to eat those chips. So I'm chomping away on my... But these chips were those big beer batter fry things. Some of these chips had a postcode. I'm not kidding. So I thought to myself, maybe one chip. So I had the chip. It was a good chip. And I'm just about finishing my sandwich, and I thought, well, maybe 2. There's a lot of chips there. Had the second chip, and that was it. New mental model. I pushed the plate like that. Seriously, that's what it was like. Now, I'm sharing this story because mental models are bloody hard to move, okay? Because I had one lot of mental models saying, eat healthy, you don't need chips. But you know what? I had these other mental models sitting on my shoulder saying, there are starving children in Africa. You need to eat everything on your plate, okay? So I'm telling you that story to show that mental models are resistant to change, and also my therapist said I need to disclose more in public forums. Why am I trying to tell you funny stories like that? Because if you go from here and you say, right, I'm going to get better at leadership, I'm going to change this or I'm going to change that, be careful, because these have to go with you. You have to modify your values, beliefs and assumptions, or you go nowhere. See that second dot point there? That is a big transition for many people from management to leadership. If you have this sensation going through your head, oh, it's just quicker for me to do it myself, stop. You will die young. Okay? You will die young. You have to change that mental model as a leader. You have to understand the difference between transformation and transaction. Can I pinch one of your lollies? excuse me, you have to understand the difference between those two things. What we're doing here today, transactional learning, we're just flapping our lips. If you go and try and transform your practice as a leader, that's when the heavy lifting occurs. I want you to take a couple of minutes. How much leading are you doing? How much managing are you doing? Try and put a percentage around it. And what amount of managing and what amount of leading would you like to be doing? 2 minutes compulsory talking. What's your leadership management ratio? Excuse me. Got a frog. That's a good one to revisit from time to time. Just ask yourself how much leading, how much managing you do. Probably a bit more up. Okay, bring it back. I was just saying to Vicky, it's a good one to revisit from time to time, because at none of those levels is it bad. Okay, it's not bad to be here, there, or anywhere. I just want you guys to get a metacognition, which is a fancy word for saying thinking about your own thinking. Where are you looking at this? At what level of perspective? Think of my friends with lost luggage. Okay, make sure that you're getting up there. Have a very clear picture of what it is that you really want for yourself personally and professionally. Explore your values and beliefs. Build good systems and structures. You want great routines to happen in your organisation, and you want great outcomes every day. The direction is really important. This next one I know you'll have a lot of fun with at home and at work. And it sounds like Pop Psych 101. It's the root cause of 99.9% of your drama at home and at work. Understanding how people make meaning. Now, I don't like doing karaoke, so I'm going to let you read this. That sound fair enough? Now, just before you agree with it, you need to know that it's the most dysfunctional mental model of perception on the planet. I'm going to put my hand up because I suffer from it, and you know what? So do you. If you don't think you do, give me your medicine. You are medicated. Okay? We do this all the time. The skill is to get metacognitive about this. If you haven't read Ardress's work, Chris Ardress, I would commend his work to you. I think it's brilliant. He developed this model called the ladders of inference. I'm sure many of you have seen it. Let me explain it in a really fun and practical way that you can use at work. So see Vicky here. Vicky thinks that this object sitting on her shoulders, commonly known as a head, she thinks it's like a video camera, you know, like sight and sound, 270-degree rotation. Well, kinda, but shortly after Vicky was born, she installed an editing suite in her head. She went out and recruited about a dozen people to work a 24-hour roster. Because Vicky thinks that she goes up this ladder in an orderly fashion. She thinks she looks at a situation, she takes in the data, makes meaning, draws assumptions and conclusions, modifies her values and beliefs, and then acts skillfully. No, she doesn't. Vicky goes up that ladder like a rat up a drain pipe. And you know what? So do you. Because you all have your own editing suite. You just hire different people, because what happens is Vicky is an incredibly intelligent woman. She still only has about 64 petabytes of storage capacity in here. So she needs to edit the data. So what happens is her mental models only pull out values, beliefs and assumptions that fit her worldview. Everything else just goes whooshing by. Ever notice when you've learned a new word and then you keep hearing the bloody thing everywhere? Same principle, but a little bit more complex than that. So I just referred to this as a reflex loop. I call it the delicious loop of self-delusion. Now, I've got 2 teenage daughters. I've got a spare. This one here is my eldest daughter. And my 2 daughters and my wife, we went camping on the Burdekin River, which is in far north Queensland at Easter. And I said to my daughters, you've got to leave all your iPhones and computers and everything at home. We're going to the bush. You can imagine that went over well. I was paying for the airfares, so that happened. We flew to Townsville, drove west to Charters Towers, arrived at my sister's place, and my sister's not there. There's a note. Uptown, doing some shopping for the camp. Make yourself at home. So I said to my wife and daughters, I've got 330 staff across 24 sites around Australia. Strangely enough, they like to get paid. I said, I need to authenticate all the pays with the banking system, and because we run residential care facilities, legally I have to do an official handover. I said, I want to do this, I've got to do it before 4 o'clock, and then I'm cracked off, I'm having a holiday. Is that okay? Yep. And I said to this one here, Zoe, who's already dived onto my sister's computer, because like it's been 6 hours since we left Brisbane, so hasn't sent a tweet, hasn't sent a Facebook post. Most of her friends think she's dead. The boyfriend's heartbroken, he thinks she's left him, you know. So she's on the computer like this, clickety-clack. So I said, Zoe, darling, can you get me a cup of tea? I want to finish this banking and these phone calls. Without looking up, she goes, sure, Dad, not a problem. So when I go to the room, sending emails, doing bank transfers, terribly important person, after about 15 minutes, I still haven't got a cup of tea. I'm tonguing for a cup of tea. So I come out, I said, Zoe, where's my cup of tea, doll? She goes like this, there's no tea bags. So I look at that situation, I select certain data. The data that I select is directly related to the values, beliefs and assumptions that I hold about my teenage daughter. I think she couldn't give a rat's about my cup of tea. I don't think she values the work that her dad does, how hard he works for the family. I think she spends too much time on the computer. I think she spends too much time talking to this boy that I don't like. What a surprise. So do I go up this ladder in an orderly fashion? No. I start yelling at my daughter. All I ask for is a cup of tea. I'm in there work, and away I go. Now, this is the beauty of this model, if you teach it to your family and your colleagues, because my wife has seen this 100 times. She hears me carrying on like a pork chop, comes round the corner, she says, excuse me, my darling, you might be up your ladder. We have just spent the last 15 minutes pulling the pantry apart, trying to find you a cup of tea. We didn't want to disturb you. We knew you were doing important work, the banking and the phone calls. There are no tea bags, get over it. So guess who had to come back down the ladder? Yeah? Now, it's hard. We're carrying something. It's called ego. Now, most people carry their ego in a nice little bag like that. Some people have knapsacks, and some people have matching Louis Vuitton, okay? If you're going to be a good leader, seriously, this is a biggie. Get over yourself. Have the courage to come back down your ladder. Just maybe your towering intellect may not be correct at this point in time. Okay? Epilogue to that story. Later that day, having a beverage of choice with my wife, I still hadn't given up. I said, you say I'm up my bloody ladder. What about Zoe? Wife takes a sip of Chardonnay and says, yes, and who's the grown-up? Okay? Coming back down your ladder is not a sign of weakness or immaturity. It's actually a sign of maturity. You got 2 minutes. This time, if you've been talking to the person on the left, I want you to talk to the person on the right. It'll be a little bit complicated. You'll work it out. Ladders I've climbed recently at home or at work. When did you become aware, or did you stay deliciously delusional? Okay? 2 minutes. Time to confess.
I love it.
All right. If you can get your team talking about this, it really transforms how they do. Because you let go of ego.
Have you ever done anything with ANSOL?
What's
Australian
in?
New Zealand School of Government?
No. I'd love to. Okay, bring it back. I would hope that you will take this model back and embed it in the meta language of your team. When I go back to organisations that I work with over the years and we do some deep work around this, I love it because people say, oh, you know what, I'm up my ladder, or you might be up your ladder. And one of the most powerful things that you can do as a leader is what's called appropriate self-disclosure, where you can say, you know what, maybe I'm up my ladder and I need to come back down. Now, I come from a big family of 6 kids, right? I don't know when anyone else comes from a big family, but I'm the youngest, so I have no credibility with these people. And I was home at this camp, you know, recently, and I'm sitting there having a beer with my eldest brother, and he worries about me because he's had a couple of beers and the head goes on the side. He says, what the hell do you actually do? And so I told him about the charity, and he said, but all this talking you do, who do you talk to? What do you talk about? I couldn't resist. So I had this open, getting ready for a conference. So I went over and got the computer, got a couple of fresh beers, sat it down. Brother's about 65, smart guy, and I taught him the ladders of influence. He loved it. He said, oh, look at that. Yeah, oh, yeah, get that. 10 minutes of that, that was enough, went back to the beers. Across the other side of the table, I got a couple of spare sisters. Now, they were chatting away, and in the middle of their conversation, the word Leah comes up. Now, Leah is my best friend's wife. She's not at the Barbie, she's not in the town, she's not anywhere to be seen. Now, I'm going to swear, because this needs to have a North Queensland feel, so if you're offended, put your finger in your ear. As soon as my brother hears the word Leah, he goes, Leah, she's a bitch. I went, oh. I said, Norm. I said, you can't talk like that. And away he went to tell me what an ignorant, rude person she was. And as he's going away, I said, Norm, remember the model? Well, his eyes went like saucers. He said, I don't give a stuff about your model. He said, she's a bitch and that's a fact. So I'm sitting there thinking, I mustn't be very good at this stuff because I've just taught this and he's just thrown it all out the window. He said, no, this is a fact. So be careful that you don't go away from here and go, yes, those poor misguided souls running up the ladders. Must be a terrible thing, okay? We're all up ladders a lot more than we think. Oh, Zoe came to a conference recently because she heard I tell funny jokes about her. And she snuck in the back of the workshop and it was like morning tea time or something. And she comes barreling over. She waited till there was no one around. And I just finished telling that story. She goes, that's not what happened. I said, hey, this is my ladder and my conference. Rack off. So you got to get into the concept of feedback. And I got a little quick vignette that might give you a sense of that.
Hey, kid. What you got to get down? Come on.
I'm reckoning that guy didn't like the cat much, eh? So be careful. We lay these ladders of inference on pretty much. Watch yourself walking down the street, walking through the airport. You know, you're going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Now, make no mistake, you have to go up ladders. It's not a bad thing. The reason that you're in this room is you're a pretty good judge. But don't believe your own press. You know, maybe, just maybe, your towering intellect may not be right. And this is where feedback comes in. And if you're going to get fair income about feedback, you've got to be a deep listener. Now, most people think they're good listeners, but sometimes they're a little bit delusional about that. So here's a couple of things to try. The next time that you're speaking with someone, ask yourself, are you deeply listening, really listening, or are you doing one of these four things? Chances are, if you're in a leadership position, you are doing all four of those at once, and you have tied a bow around them. Okay? Now, the next slide I show you, if you can use some of these questions, they will change how you do business as a leader, sincerely, okay? So here's a couple of questions that you could put in your leadership kit bag. And see that last one that's about to pop up there, how would you like me to be involved here? I reckon you should tattoo that on the inside of your forearm. Just think for a moment, your towering intellect may not be needed in this situation. Just ask. If you're a male, tattoo it on both forearms. Because men think they've got to fix stuff all the time. Look at the third dot point. You know what the most common response to that is? I don't know. Yet sometimes people are running and fixing people. Look at 2 and 4. That, you know, people are running in with their little cape and undies trying to rescue situations. Just check in with what people have done about that situation. Have you ever been working on a computer and the screen goes blue and you ask somebody for help and they lean over and take the mouse off you and go click, 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 and you have no idea what happened? That's what many leaders do. They don't understand leader as coach. I run a module just on that, leader as coach. It's a change of your mental model. Are there times when you get in there and take the mouse? Yes. Okay? That can't be your default position. Look at the first question. What about some chronology? This has been an issue for 5 minutes or 5 years. That might change how you do business. Now, these are my questions, and I think they're bloody brilliant. Okay? And you can have them, but if you don't make them part of your persona, like if Vicky, she's welcome to those, but if she doesn't Vickyorize them, okay, people have these things on the back of their head. You know what they're called? Bullshit antenna. You ever seen someone come back from a workshop and they start doing that? One of those communication workshops. You seem upset. Oh, this is my personal favourite. What I hear you saying. Okay? So for goodness sake, be authentic, be real with people. Those questions are good questions, but you've got to make them part of you. You've got to make them part of who you are and what you're doing. You've got to build a bank of open and closed questions. If you're going to be a good coach and a good leader, you've got to know how to use open and closed questions skillfully. And feedback has got to be transformational, not just transactional. And if you're going to do this, if you're going to build feedback into your culture, boy, you have to understand what a pit is. And pits are not bad things. They are time to celebrate. Time for you to actually... Why, that's frozen on me. They're times to celebrate. And you have to get beyond defensive reasoning. And this is the default for many people when they enter into feedback, particularly as leaders. They want to stay deliciously delusional. If you want to know if somebody is about to defensively reason why they are indeed a genius and they don't need your feedback, listen for these two words, yes, but. Of course, if they're coming out of your mouth, you're about to defensively reason as well. One of the most important skills that you can have as a leader is shut up and listen. Okay? Because if somebody's actually taking the time to give you feedback, they're doing you the biggest favour that you've ever had. So listen deeply. And the chances are, if feedback hasn't been a part of your culture, then you will get some pits. And pits are periods of confusion, frustration and angst. And most people avoid pits. They don't respect the horizontal axis of time. So when you're trying to learn any new skill, it gets a bit messy for a while. I got another brother. He was 16 years of age. He could throw a javelin 72 metres. They sent him from North Queensland down to Melbourne to get ready for the Olympics in about 6 or 8 years' time. They said, throw the javelin, son. Threw the javelin 70 metres. They said, that's pretty good. Qualifying's 80. It's a miracle that you can throw the javelin that far. Your grip is really crazy. You'll need to change your grip. So they changed his grip. Guess how far he threw the javelin? 40, 45, 42. He was confused, frustration, full of angst. He said, stuff that. I'm going back to throw it. Never went to the Olympics. Why am I talking about that? Because that's what many leaders do when they're trying to get better at various skills. There's a bit of a pit. It's a bit messy. And then they chuck it all in. And then they find the new shiny tank to have a look at. When I go in and work with organisations and trying to create deep, rich, authentic feedback environments, I get them to laminate this and say, put it on your desk. And when you have your first pit with your staff or your team, go out and shout each other a drink. Because that means the bullshit's over and you're starting to have authentic conversations. I said it with my staff. And they all looked at me like I was some weirdo. Why does he want to have a pit with us? Because that means you're having those breakthrough moments where you're sorting things out and you're getting clarity. And once you come out of a pit, there's usually another one waiting for you because you've gone to a new plateau of performance. Have a look on my website, Act for Kids. You'll see one of my staff, Dr. Katrina Lyons, PhD, MBA, world expert in abuse and neglect. And she came to me one day after we'd had a performance review conversation. And she said, Neil, can I see you for a minute? I said, yeah, sure. She said, I've never been so upset. And I said, oh yeah, what was that about? And she said, well, the conversation we had yesterday. I said, oh yeah. And I said, how good's this? And she got even angrier. I said, no, this is fantastic. We're having our first pit. She got even angrier. I said, no, I'm really excited because you're here talking to me. We're going to sort this out. We're going to come out of this pit and we're going to be dangerous. That was 6 years ago. We've been in 27 more pits since then. And we are amazing working together. But that's what grown-ups do. They understand the importance of pits and they move through them. So it's a sign that you get your relationship is mature and you're actually starting to get some traction and some progress. A couple of tips that might help you to do that. If you've never entered into feedback, and I could run a whole day workshop just on the skill of scaffolding, it's a good start. If I stand at that door today and as you're all going out and I say, could I have some feedback please? How did it go? I guarantee you what you'll say. Yeah, good, thanks, Neil. Even if you thought I was amazing or I was an oxygen thief, you'll say, yeah, good. If I say to you, Vicky's going to get me to do a similar program with her team in Queensland, can you give me a couple of things that were really powerful, a couple of things I could leave out, a couple of things I need to spend more time on, give it a scaffold, I'll get a deeper, richer response. Here's another scaffold that you could use. Plug and play this tomorrow. Stop, start, continue, develop. If you're a leader, go to your staff and say, what would you say to me as the leader that I should stop doing, start doing, continue to do, and what do I need to keep an eye on? What do I need to develop? What's something that's going really well? What's something I need to give more attention to? These are all scaffolds. The first time you try this, it will be beige and messy. If you stick with it, and if you resist the temptation to correct people who get feedback wrong, okay, you will be amazed how your culture can transform itself. Here's another little tick. This is another big mistake that leaders make. If Vicky's my 2IC, we're having a review of the first 6 months of the year. What most people do is they write up a performance review or something or other and send it to the Vicky. What I do is I say, Vicky, you know the drill, send me back an email, what were your takeaways from today? Why do that? Because I'm interested in the messages that she took away, not the messages that I think I delivered. Very simple, but very powerful. And you know what else it does? It takes the power out of these conversations, that we're colleagues with a vested interest in moving forward. So scaffolding and folding back. A couple of tips to help your feedback culture. How do we go? I said I'd give you a few ideas about culture, time, teamwork, leadership, perception, deep listening. Said that we'd explore the concept of four-way feedback. If you're not sure what that is, that's feedback from above, feedback from your staff that report to you, feedback from your peers, your colleagues, and the last one is self-reflective feedback. Don't spend too much time just on the last one. You will be deliciously delusional. Leave you with these thoughts. Remember, your staff watch you to work out what's important around here. They're watching what you're doing. They're also watching what you don't do. I want you to try that phrase. Next time I say I haven't got time, it's not important. Be laser-like. Our strategic plan has 4 pillars. Is that all we do? No, but we are laser-like about what we're doing. Teamwork, take that model back and use that, have an explicit conversation about agreement and alignment. Encourage people to disagree. Check your leadership management ratio. You have to lead, you have to manage. Make sure you're leading your personal life. Watch your ladder climbing, okay? It is a big trap. And you know who you're prone to climb ladders the most with? People you love to bits. And you know that other person across the staff room who drives you nuts? You like that? Okay, be the grown-up. Come back down your ladder. Try your deep listening, okay? Really focus in listening to what the other person's saying before you give them your wisdom, and you might want to explore some concepts around four-way feedback. What I'd like you to do, just in the few minutes that we have left, is another technique that you can take away from today. What's been your light bulb moment? I know I've got some frequent flyers out here that have worked with me before, and you might have heard these concepts before. But what's the action that you can take from today? Otherwise, you've just had a happy clapper experience. What are you actually going to commit to do something about? Remember, less is more. Don't try and do 53 things. What's one thing that you can say, you know what? That's made me think a little bit more about, and how you're going to take it forward. You've got 2 minutes compulsory talking, then I'm going to close. How we go?
Good. 5 minutes. I'm going to take away up your ladder.
I'll just stick to time. Hey folks, can I bring you back? I said to you that time was precious, and if you look at the time, I stick exactly to time. Vicky was very nervous whether she was going to have to ring bells. I said, don't ring bells. I said, I'll be finished on time. I just asked for a couple of minutes of your indulgence. I thought I might tell you about my day job so that you think I'm not making up this stuff about leadership. So Act for Kids is an Australian charity that is focused on prevention and treatment of child abuse and neglect. We've got 330 staff now working across 24 sites around Australia. We actually have a service here in South Australia. Everything that we do is free of charge. We don't have any religious affiliation. We work with governments, but frankly I'd rather influence governments on their agenda. We've put over $1 million of our own money here into South Australia. We haven't had any government assistance yet. I've got a meeting with Jay Weatherall this afternoon. Hopefully we can start a conversation about that. We run safe houses in the remotest parts of Australia, so we're in Doomadgee, Arakoon, Pomeroy, Carrinyarra and Napperton. I have around about 94 Indigenous staff that work for us. We won the Reconciliation Award for our work in Indigenous communities. We have 3 schools that are partnerships with Education Queensland. Our school in Brisbane, which is for the more profound cases, 2 to 6 year old, the sort of tragic cases you see on the news, won the Inclusive Education Award for the thousands of schools across Queensland, so we're very proud of our team there. We've also have a protective behaviours program. We're working in 14 schools here in South Australia at the moment, and we're in every mainland state and Tasmania working in schools as well. If you want to jump online, have a look at what we do. We'd love to have you connected. If you think that you can help us out in some way, that'd be great. We're not very good sometimes at telling our story, because if someone gives me 100 grand, I go and buy another therapist. I don't put an ad campaign. So a lot of people think we're a theatre group from Canberra. But we work in a very serious business. I was sharing a story with some GPs on the Gold Coast last year. 4-month-old baby with 7 broken bones. That little bubby had learnt not to cry. It's called disassociation. They're the sorts of lives that we put back together. And people think it's very, dark and gloomy. No, it's fantastic, because we can't help what happened, but we can transform that little kid's life. So I got the best job in the world. Absolute privilege to be a part of ALIA's conference, and I want to thank the organisers for acknowledging Act for Kids in the program. You've got pens out there. And I've got to tell you a quick story about this. The best part about my job is every couple of months I give someone a Mercedes-Benz. It's hilarious, because I ring these people up. I say, oh, could I speak to Vicky, please? Oh, yeah, speaking. Oh, it's Neil Carrington from Act for Kids. Oh, no, mate, I bought tickets. And they hang up on me. Every time. And I've got to ring them back, okay? Hilarious. 5 people, hand on heart, 5 people have won it twice. I was just telling somebody before who buys tickets, I said, the lady I rang up in Perth in November, I said, oh, can I speak to Betty Davis, please? Yeah, sure. I said, Betty, you've won the car. She said, mate, I didn't even buy tickets. I said, no, but your husband did. Oh, isn't he lovely? So she got the car, 25 grand, gold, all this sort of stuff. February this year, I ring Bob Davis. That's the husband. He wins the bloody thing straight after. Unbelievable. It's a very limited... I'd buy tickets if I could, but I'm not allowed. So if you can help us out, have a look at that. That's in your conference satchel. Again, I want to thank the organisers. You're not here to hear about my charity, but I just wanted to take 2 minutes of your time, because I know you guys care about the safety of little people as well. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, organisation, and be good to each other.
So thank you very much, Neil. It's been a fantastic presentation, and I think that we've all got some takeaways that we can personally reflect on over the next few days. I'll certainly be thinking a lot about being deliciously delusional, and and not being deliciously delusional, of course, and I certainly encourage my team over the next few weeks to remind me when I have to get down from my ladder, because that's certainly something that I've resonated with me. We have a small gift to give you.
Thank you very much. I give all the money away, but I never give the wine or the chocolates away. Thank you. Thank you.
So, as Neil said at the beginning of his presentation, he encourages you to come up to him and get his business card. So if you'd like to receive a copy of his presentation, he's indicated that he'd be happy to email that to you. I also, I'm sure I don't need to remind you that it is morning tea time, so I do encourage you to push away your mental models and enjoy the morning tea. These conference sessions will recommence again at 11 a.m. And could you please give Neil some feedback in the usual way on what an excellent presentation he's provided today. Thank you.
Built these walls around me so they never seem to fall. Boy,